We are live all the way live. Don't even have to rock. Don't even have to. Question is, which lighting package are we rocking with today? Well, that's what we're doing. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Woo! We are here. It is another day. Another day in the lab. Another day in the lab. Yep, I got lots to yeah, oh yeah, I want to talk about that. I got a really interesting thought. So, welcome to Culture and Code, the weekly show where we bring interesting ideas. What else do we do on this weekly show? We interview people. We do a lot on this show. It's a weekly show. Shout out to my friend Rashid Muhammad. I see you, brother. 8 o'clock. I love that everybody shows up on time. To be early is on time. To be on time is late. We do this show every week. We reach hundreds of people through LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch. Yeah, hundreds of you are in our world. Another day in the lab. Yeah, my lab. This is my lab TV guide behind me. See my friend Michael Shoulder out there. Boom, the numbers just jumped up. The numbers are jumping up. The numbers are jumping up. Welcome to all of you guys. Welcome to another morning, another week of the Culture and Code weekly show. This is a show brought to you by The Authenticated. The Authenticated is a community of founders, funders, bosses, creatives, just a bunch of cool people that have done some amazing things that live in our network. We have an app, we have a WhatsApp community, and we have a new incredible room at this platform called Clubhouse. That's why I'm talking so slow. It was up till 12:30. Last night we did a members meet each other kind of thing. It's really, really good. It's really, really good. Shout out to the Authenticated community. They always show up, show out. If you're interested in the Authenticated community, there's so many ways to reach me. If you can't reach me, then you're not trying hard enough. We vet for people who are generous with their time. It's interesting. Last night we did a thing where we asked our members to do what's called a give get. So for the next 30 days, what can you give the community and what do you want back from the community? So we had, people who have startups who talked about, wanting to find some investors. We had nonprofits that had events coming up. We had, talented people looking to switch careers. So those are the kinds of things we do in the network. And then the get, was really the hardest. The hardest thing was actually for people to ask for what they wanted. It was actually easier for people to talk about what they could give. Fascinating experiment in human psychology last night. So I want to talk this morning about the idea of a launch date. And many of you are launching new ideas, new products, new concepts. And the reality is your launch date is when you start having conversations with people. I see my old boss, Demet Guidry, on there. What's up, Demet? It's funny, perfect timing, not lost on me that in the music industry, we have this thing called the grid, right? And we actually would launch a single, a remix, a second single, and on week 16 launch the album. Now you're launching all the time. As soon as you open your mouth and you're talking to investors, As soon as you are talking to, like I probably take 20, 50, let's call it 15, 10 to 20 pitches per month. New ideas, startup companies, growth stage companies, early stage companies, looking for capital, looking for resources, looking for marketing, looking for brand. And at the end of the day, if you read Peter Thiel's book, 0 to 1, where he talks about everything is sales, right? Whether you're doing viral marketing or selling your company or looking for capital or raising money, it's all sales. It's all sales. So you're always launching. Like you're always launching. Like when you're starting up, when you're building a business, you're launching all the time. So this idea of a launch date, which used to apply, right, in the old media model, is no more. And that I had this conversation yesterday with a founder, and he was like, okay, my launch is going to be, let's just say it was Thanksgiving. And I was like, no, like your launch is now. Like we're launching. So I wanted to offer that to people. Just this idea of the reimagination of the launch date and what you think launching looks like. Because it's no longer like just fucking press releases. There's no like you're creating awareness. You're selling all the time, whether you're selling to an investor or you're selling to your customer. So I think it just hit me in the past couple of days, uh, as I started to talk to a couple of founders. It's like, you got this all wrong. You've really, like you're missing the essence of what you're doing. Like you don't need to have an official date. Once you decide, listen, I look at it this way. In this era, in this moment that we're in, where you're constantly iterating and pivoting. I'm doing that in my business. What you're in right now is literally a living lab. This is my living lab. This right here is my TV guide. This is all the content we're producing for the next 6 weeks. But we just gridded it out. You're in the Wednesday weekly show. We got Sunday, we do a thing called The Other America. I mean, we launched a new show, me, a woman named Bian Chu. We launched a show on Clubhouse, with this amazing platform, and we launched a show called The Originals. This is so good. And The Originals is where we sit down with old school vets who have been around a long time in music, primarily right now. We're going to move to other industries, and we just get game. And so the first guest was George Clinton, and we did 3 hours with George Clinton, and it was amazing. And we're going to continue to do that every other week in Clubhouse. Clubhouse is this new app. It's incredible. But it's cool because Fab Five Freddy jumped on stage, and then Lee Quinones jumped on stage, and then it's basically like speaker area, and then listeners, and then it just was amazing. And so we're doing this show where we want to give roses to the vets, and yes, we talked about Atomic Dog and Parliament and all that stuff, but then we then we talked about what George is doing now, which is fascinating. At 80 years old, this man has got an art project he's been working on in the pandemic. He's partnered with the Perez Museum in Miami. So we had the incredible Franklin Sermons on, who's one of the few Black directors of a museum. Incredible. So yeah, so we had a really good time with George, and we're going to do that. We're going to do that, every other week. So the point is that we're always launching. Like, it's not like one date. It's like the thing about, there's a concept in Silicon Valley called the lean startup, right? And the concept goes like this: you build software, you get it to a point, and then you release it, right? And it may not be done, but you release it. And this release is called a minimal viable product. And then you get user feedback, you get consumer feedback. And then you go back in the lab and you tinker it some more, and then you push it out and you iterate or pivot. The idea is to get to failure fast. You want to fail fast. You want to know, is this thing going to be a brick or not? Is this thing going to work? Is this going to, you want to get to failing fast. We used to do this in the music business. For those of you that are watching who are from the music business, I see my friend Tammy McCreary. I see a bunch of people. In the music business, we would take, especially hip hop, we take a rough song, and maybe it's fresh from the studio, and you put it on a mixtape, and you put the mixtape out to the streets, and you would iterate or pivot based on what the street said. So the idea is that minimal viable product, lean startup, all those philosophies are really about building product, building companies. And I just wanted to give this to you. For those of you who are joining late, we're talking about startups that have been pitching me lately, and I think stressing out over this idea of a launch date. And so the idea is that you're always launching. You're always launching. And in the book 0 to 1, Peter Thiel says that, sort of everything is sales, whether it's viral marketing, raising capital. They're just a series of simple to complex sales arrangements, basically. And it stuck with me. I'm paraphrasing for those of you who are 0 to 1 experts or Peter Thiel aficionados. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but the point that stuck with me is that everything is sales, right? So simple sales would be viral marketing. You're selling to the consumer. You're trying to convince them that this thing is working. And then complex sales deals would be like, selling your company. But we're always in a spectrum of sales, of simple to complex sales deals. So you're always launching. Once you have that conversation with me and you're asking me to find investors for you, you're asking me to find whatever, customers or investors for you, which I'm generally having those early conversations with people, right? Idea stage or past idea stage. Maybe you've raised some money. It's generally been my sweet spot. Kind of pre-seed, pre-series A is kind of my jam, right? Which I love. I'm generally, the gray-haired in the room. I meet with I spend time with a lot of young founders, a lot of young startups, and I can offer wisdom, about like how you look at your launch strategy, how you build your team. And so it's been fun. That's basically what my business has been and what we've been doing. So it's funny. I just tweeted, in the 90s, I used to get you need to meet with my cousin. She's dope. She can sing. She's friends with Beyonce's cousin, sister's brother, and like cut a demo with them. And now I get the calls of, I got this tech platform. It's going to just blow out everything you need. And, it's funny. It's really, really funny that I become the demo guy, again. It's fun. We're actually gonna start a new show. I'm putting it up on here. I know Jessica, my team, is watching. She's gonna be excited about this one because she actually prompted this idea. It's gonna be like a mentor show where we have like a panel of wisdom, and folks can chime in. We'll pick folks every week to present their business ideas to a panel of folks who can mentor them. Still working through the idea. It's going to be really cool. You're not going to want to miss it. Yeah, and if you're not already a member of the Authenticated, we have all kinds of ways to become a member of this community that I started 4 years ago. And the community started, honestly, the community started, man, it's like allergy season out here in the West Coast. Um, I started Authenticated, honestly, because I ended up getting really, really screwed in a business deal. Uh, when you have business partners, this is another lesson. You got to go in with a level of, it's like a marriage when you have a business partner, right? And sometimes they go well, and you have an exit, and sometimes they don't go well. And I think you go in with the best intentions. You do your due diligence on that person. You hope and pray that the idea that you guys build together, that you guys are equally yoked, right? That your partner is bringing something to the table. I could do a whole session on this. I should add another. Actually, I should add a whole other session. That's actually a good one. Actually, that's a really good one. I'm actually going to write that down. Um, Having a business partner and partnership with someone is something that I've been through a few times. And while I didn't like go the entire distance with a few of them, um, actually the company that I ended up my last company that I saw, actually, wow, that's really interesting. I think back on it. The two companies that I've had an exit in, the first company I built was in 1998. Um, yeah, the first company I built in 1998. I did it and sold it. It was a newsletter called Soul Purpose, and it was essentially like a media company, and it was a side hustle that I started from my desk at Columbia Records, and ended up selling it to a .com. And in that business, I didn't really have any partners. The second business that I sold was a social media company, and um, it wasn't like a big sale, but it was still an event, right? And I started with a couple of partners, but I didn't finish with those partners. The same thing in this business, actually. Wow, I'm reminiscing and thinking at the same time. Sorry, lost in thought. In this business I'm starting, I started with a couple of partners, and yeah, it's interesting. When whatever the exit, whatever the event is, on this one, I think I'm much better prepared for evaluating my team and evaluating like what I need to get to the finish line or get to where I want to get to. In the first business, I think I had a lot of like, I had a lot of like, I I didn't believe in myself as much that I could do all the things that I could do. And so I ended up choosing partners that I thought I needed to fill in things that I thought I wasn't good at, right? I thought I wasn't qualified to do certain things. And I probably wasn't. The reality is, I mean, I'm not saying I think I chose those partners for specific reasons. And I think the reasons were right. They ended up not being the right partners. Um, that the second business. Um, the current business that I'm in, I think part of it with partners is sometimes there's a season and a reason, right? And I think in the season that I was in, I think you can get to an expiration date where you like go into a partnership and it's like, you know, it just everything that you needed or everything it just doesn't work. I mean, that's the reality is I don't have any shit just don't work out sometimes. um Now where I have a problem though is where you put faith in somebody and they just do you dirty. And so that actually happened to me um, in the quest of what I'm building now. Someone just did me straight up dirty, like real dirty. And so out of that dirtiness, um, I was dejected, broken, just depressed. And I part of my magic, as you can probably tell, is being a connector. I love connecting people. And whatever people were like, you shouldn't connect people. That's not good. That's why this person burned you. And literally, God, universe, whatever you believe in, something big and magical woke me up in the middle of the night and was like, connect people on WhatsApp. And I was taking a family vacation to South Africa. And we were just about to leave for South Africa. And I ended up putting 50 people on WhatsApp and was like, you should know each other. And my network is outstanding. You've heard me talk about it every week. My network is my net worth. It's outstanding. I mean, I am so blessed. I am so blessed to have just an incredible group of people that I have called on and have, and I've pissed people off. I ain't perfect I am not perfect at all. But there's just a collective of people that I've been with. Maybe some people I haven't even talked to. Maybe some of you people are out there watching. Many of you are in my network. And I just feel really, really blessed for the people I have. So I put a lot of those people on a WhatsApp thread. And I literally went to South Africa and just watched them all connect. The guy in Dubai was connecting with the person in LA, the person in LA, they're all connecting with each other. And I was like, wow, this is like bringing me a lot of joy. This is bringing me a lot of gratitude. And that was the beginnings of the Authenticated. And really the beginnings were, I wanted to believe in humanity again. I wanted to believe that, like, not everybody was bad, and not everybody was malicious, and not everybody was there to just be a taker. There's a lot of takers in the world, not a lot of givers. A lot of takers, and I'm a giver. And and I didn't want to like feel bad for being a giver, but I wanted to build a business model around that action. So that's what we built in the Authenticated. We built a community where the idea of taking and giving was appreciated, but you only are qualified to be in my network, not just because you can pay the whatever we charge $1,000 a year, not just because you can pay the $1,000 a year, but that you can give. That you can not just give the money, but you can give your time. And it's interesting because I think about this a lot with investors. I have, my day job is working with startups, leveraging the network, leveraging other networks to raise capital, to find talent, to find board members, whatever. We do a lot of that to help, white organizations, white people who have made these pledges to Black people honor their pledges. That's the business that we're in. I'm giving you a very distilled version of it. It's very simplified. But in that, there's this notion there's a notion that I talk about, which is like smart capital, smart money. It's this idea that if you're going to have someone on your cap table, it's not just about them writing a check. They should bring something to the table. They should be able to pour into your company in a way that is bigger than the check that they write, right? And so that's what we have at the Authenticated, is just an incredible group of people who, more than just their membership fees, I know that I can count on them to either support one of our companies, one of our people we're mentoring. I got college, man, the network is literally 60-year-olds. And then we have I have a 22-year-old founder who's running a business from her dorm room at USC, who started this business in high school. So it doesn't really matter, right? We're just looking for an ethos, a spirit. And I think it's important. I think it's important when you're building a business to make sure that your cap table is surrounded by, the right kinds of people. I've been playing with a term that I've been calling myself a cap table activist. And this idea of being a cap table activist is helping organizations and companies recognize that, and this has to do a lot, how I landed here on this idea of cap table activism is I found a lot of startups that will call me and go, oh, I want this NBA player or this, celebrity to be an investor in my company. And they didn't really know. Most people don't really know, right? Like this whole idea of being more than an athlete or more than a singer or more than a rapper or whatever. Most people don't know like the other superpowers that a celebrity or an athlete bring to the table, right? What are the things they can do? Most of the time, I get these calls because you, the startup, want ex Joe Blow NBA player on your cap table because you think it looks good in a press release. And you want to launch this press release. But you don't really especially black athletes, right? I'm dealing with certain companies who have raised a significant amount of money that is going to benefit a lot of people who don't look like me, right? But they're going to do it on the backs of culture. Creatives. When I use the word culture, it's an overused word. I recognize that. I'm talking about the creative economy, which is largely driven by black and brown folks. We are the creative economy. Let's just face it. We control the Billboard charts. We control fashion, language, globally. Okay? So don't get caught up in this. I know maybe some of you are squirming in your seats. You might be like, we thought. The creative economy is dominated by reflections of black and brown youth driven, right? Through my whole career. It's a whole nother session I'll do. So generally, platforms launch with this notion of how do I scale? And we're really good, people of color, on being what my friend Jeff Dixon, who manages Ludacris, likes to say. He said it in a talk we did the other day. We're always the oil. We're never the machine. We are really good at being the oil, being the being the accoutrement, being the entertainment on the platform. But we never really own the platforms. We never really have ownership stake. We don't have to own the whole thing. We never have equity in the platforms. And that does not sit right with me today. It's not cool. It's not cool. Because I've been around long enough to see cyclical versions of this, right? Twitter started. I'm a techie. I was early Twitter. I was on there with a bunch of the nerdy techie people early, before y'all even jumped on Twitter. I promise you, I was on before you. There's probably a very few amount of people that were here that were on with me, but for the most part, I was on all the things that you're on right now, well before you. That's kind of my shtick, right? And when I was on Twitter in the beginning, it was cool. But Shaq got on. Shaq literally single-handedly changed. I remember Shaq getting on at Shaq. He changed the whole thing. Celebrities started jumping on immediately. And then you know the rest of the story. We've had two sitting presidents that have been using Twitter to broadcast. One used social media to get elected. The other today uses Twitter to God knows whatever he's doing in that White House in Washington D.C. or in Florida, where he runs the country from. Um, then we go to Vine. Vine was dominated by African American talent. We were the ones doing the dances, the nay nay, the shay shay, the woo woo, the all of them, all the dances. That's all black and brown youth, right? I'll continue. Then we'll go to Instagram. Instagram has a feature called Instagram Live. No one's really using it like that. I mean, people are using it. DA, friend of mine, Derek, D Nice Jones, gets on Instagram. Boom. Then versus Timberland Swiss, millions of people watching. Boom. And that's great. And I am proud of them. And I'm proud of Fadia, who's there, who's amazing. We reconnected. She's amazing. We don't have equity in Instagram. We didn't have equity in Vine. We didn't have equity in Twitter, largely. I'm speaking in sweeping generalizations, okay? Just stick with me. So, for me, as someone who's worked in the creative economy my entire career, is 25 years. I'm not new. And I've worked in technology since 96. I mean, a long time. And as I look at the explosion of the creator economy today, right? Look at the Patreon deal. The Patreon deal is a signal that there is significant investment in the creator economy. You don't know Patreon is sort of fair create to get paid. Just raised 90 million, I think $1 billion valuation, if I'm saying. I don't know. If you raise 90 million and the valuation is very high. Let's say it's $1 billion. My question is does your cap table reflect? Doesn't mean include everybody. Everybody can't be in the car. Everybody can't write a $25,000, $100,000, $250,000 check. That's not going to happen. My question becomes to these companies, though, as a cap table activist, which is what I am saying that I am today. Does your cap table, does your board, and does your company reflect the users that you anticipate to be the driving force of your company? That's the only question I'm asking. Doesn't mean they all got to be black. Doesn't mean they all got to be Latino. Doesn't mean they all got to be women. I just need to know that you give a fuck about the creator economy. I just need to know that you have taken cues from creators. And most importantly, if you're going to build your thing on top of creative economy, that reflective in your executive seats, reflective in your cap table, reflective in your in your thing, is representation of the creator economy. I am a representative of the creator economy, which means I'm going to stand up for the rights of the creator. Period. I'm not selling out. I'm not like, you understand, like I came up in this business. My best friend's mother is Dionne Warwick. Shout out to David Elliott if you're watching. Like I give fucks about, lots of fucks about the creator. And I believe that the creator, moving forward, moving into this crazy time period that we're in. I see my friend Jessica Care Moore, the great Jessica Care Moore, poet, activist. I care about their gift. I care about their contributions. I care about what they can do to move the needle of society and culture. And I just want to know that your cap table is expansive enough to include individuals that actually would protect that very precious gift. Very, very precious gift. And because so that's what I think about when I think about the Patreon deal, and the signals that I'm getting. This show is called Culture Signals. I care about what we're doing with creators. Even if my creator friends can't afford to write a check to be an investor in your company, at least have people. And by the way, just because they're black or brown doesn't mean they actually care about the creator culture. Just so we're clear, doesn't mean you have to have a black person. And the problem with that is that we have tokenism, right? We have we're gonna put. I won't even name any names because I don't want to, start some shit. But we're gonna put this person in the role because they're the black whatever, and and there's so. So anyway, this is a longer term discussion. My stomach is growling. I got some yogurt and some granola pretty soon. But I'm kind of like, these are like what do they call it? Unstructured thoughts. This is why I do this show. I don't have it fully formed, and you guys can totally throw bananas and eggs at me, whatever y'all do. I do see some people with some great comments. I'm posting your comments. I just think that this idea of being a cap table activist is a new cape that I'm starting to wear, and super excited about telling you guys about it. This is what Wednesday's show is about. It's sort of like it's wiping the crust out of my eyes, waking up, doing a meditation, and then just kind of literally spewing fresh Krispy Kreme donuts. The light is on, it's flashing, and you're getting fresh from the top of the dome thoughts. I also like to interview guests on the show. So next week, we got a good one. We got a woman in the network. Her name, I won't even say her name, but she invested in gold in Kenya and has been schooling us on gold. And Buffett just went to gold about a few weeks ago. And so we're learning about gold. If you've been with us for a while, we been talking about farming and agriculture. We interviewed John Boyd, who's the head of the National Black Farmers Association. We also did another show with John Boyd and two farmers, one in Houston, one in Louisiana. Learned a ton. If you guys know me, I am not the farming dude. I'm not even the camping dude. I'm not even the outdoorsy dude. I did go on a dude ranch. Speaking of dude, I did go on a dude ranch with my family last summer in Colorado, rode horses, fly fished, did all that stuff. It was amazing. So I actually did discover that inside this guy is a cowboy. It's great. I'll tell you more about it. And I did spend a week on Jane Fonda's ranch in New Mexico. That was amazing. But that was like fancy bougie kind of living. Well, they both were bougie kind of living. That trip last summer was bougie too. But I do have it in me to be out there on the frontier. I rode horses every day for like 4 hours. It's great. So anyway, I digress. But I did have an incredible episode with the National Black Association of Farmers, John Boyd. This man has sat with 4 living presidents, had a $20 million deal with Castro that the U.S. government blocked, just signed an MOU with Nigeria to train farmers on sustainability, and is currently boycotting John Deere and suing John Boyd. Check out the episode we just did with him. That was crazy. We're trying to help John Boy raise about $800,000 to buy an additional 400 acres. Anybody out there want to donate to the National Black Association of Farmers and help farmers understand sustainability and in growing crops and new technologies? Let us know. That was incredible. Yes, Lauren, that was a really good episode. So, I'm on this crazy platform called Clubhouse. Last night we did a thing again where it was this idea of giving and getting. What can you give to the community for the next month? And what can the community give to you? Easiest part was for people to talk about what they could give. I'll give this. I'll give talk. I'll give one. Gina Belafonte, the daughter of Harry Belafonte, talked about giving meditation, guided meditation. The hardest part was when they had to actually ask for something. So what do I need? And that was really interesting because I think one of the things I recognize from last night is you got to be willing to ask. I don't do it well. I'm not going to lie to you. That was as much for me as it was my network last night. I don't do that well. I'm not really good at. I'm such a giver, a voracious giver, that I don't really do a great job of asking for things. I just met with a mentor this week who was the former ambassador to Uruguay. I'm working on a project in Uruguay. Shout out to the Campo team. Can't wait to show you guys that. In fact, I should have her on the episode next week. Working with an incredible woman named Heidi Lender in Uruguay. She's building a compound for artisans and creatives. And I sat down with a mentor who is the ambassador to Uruguay under George Bush. Literally left so overwhelmed because he was like, what do I do for you? How do I help you? I was like, oh my God, I don't even like. Sometimes you don't know, like, I'm overwhelmed. I was literally overwhelmed. I was like, he's like, yeah, I was with the president before Corona, before lockdown. Da, da, da. I'm like, I can ask for anything? Anything. Okay. I'm not really good at it. I used to go to Dubai a lot. Well, before quarantine. I used to spend more time in Dubai. And I have a friend there named Sultan Al Qasemi. Sultan is an incredible guy. And I literally met Sultan through a friend of mine named Laura Satrakian, who built a company called News Deeply. And I was a friend to I still am a dear friend to Laura. She wanted to build this company, and I just gave to her. I just consistently, Laura, she was working at a big job in Dubai at the time. And I just would jump on the phone with her like every week. What are you doing? What progress have you made on your company? What are you doing now? What are you doing now? What are you doing now? And her gift to me was she literally gifted me her entire network in Dubai. So I had an unfair advantage when I went to Dubai. I knew all locals, which is very difficult in Dubai because, it's a lot of expats. And I was so blessed to have, and still am really blessed to have like incredible network in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, UAE, now Saudi. So she gifted me this network, and the gift just kept giving. I should write that. That's a really good blog post. The gift that keeps giving. And she gifted me, and I accepted. I received from her. I received from her this gift of Sultan Al Qasemi. I received the gift of Avi Bojani, who ran an agency, who used to fly me over to Dubai to give these speeches. And it unlocked just more incredible gifts. To this day, I have Noah Rafford, who's a dear friend of mine, who's the chief futurist for the UAE, the prime minister. He's in authenticated. I just like me saying yes to that gift has been incredible. I have all these gifts that have come from the gifts, but I am not very good at receiving gifts. I'm not very good at asking for things, and that I think messes up the ecosystem, the natural flow of life, right? Because if I don't receive the gift that Laura Satrakian gives me, which introduces me to Sultan Al Qasemi, Sultan was amazing. What Sultan would do is, as soon as I would land in Dubai, he would say, "What can I do for you?" This guy, literally, I would land whenever you land in Dubai. You land at night, wipe the crust from my eyes, get out of flight, show the restaurant, blurry eyed, and he would do this every time I would get off the plane. He would take me to dinner. He would see, like, what's your agenda for your trip? Who do you want to meet? Who's on your calendar? Who else is there? What are you passionate about? I was like, whoa, overwhelmed. I can't take this. But I received his gift. And one time I said, "Can you throw me a party?" And Sultan is in the arts community in Dubai. He's from Sharjah. Sharjah is the cultural capital of the Emirates. So he's in the artsy crew. So he throws this party for not well, I guess he threw it for me, but he throws a party every night, come to find out. But he throws a party at his house, invites me over, and it's me and all locals. And I just met some of the most amazing people there that night. Gosh, there's a couple people. There's a woman in Saudi I gotta get back in touch with. She was incredible. She was one of the first women to drive a car, documented on YouTube. I forgot. I gotta find her. And then I met Sarah Abu Aliyah, who was incredible. She actually ended up working on Dubai Music Festival. They became a client of mine. Gosh, if I think about just all the things that happened from that night, from that dinner, and at that dinner, I met Dr. Noah Rafford, who is the chief futurist for the government of Dubai and American living in Dubai. He's a futurist. And in Authenticated, which is my community, he actually built his own network inspired by being inauthenticated. So anyway, the point of the story is that I love that. Jessica Caramore says, the givers got to push the other givers to receive. That's exactly the point. Thank you. Takes a poet sometimes to still. So I really think that this idea of giving and receiving is really important. I am such a giver in all areas. All areas. And yeah, it's just interesting. There's probably a whole episode just on that. But I'm very thankful for you. I'm thankful that you guys tune in and listen to my stream of consciousness every Wednesday. I try to make the stream of consciousness make a little bit of sense. I try to make the stream of consciousness actually, make it meaningful and make it helpful. I hope that we do that. I'd love your comments. Can you guys in the chat room that you're in tell me what city you're in? I'd love to just know what cities I'm talking to. All I see are like usernames, but if you don't mind, in whatever platform you're watching me in, because I'm in like 5 different platforms, just give me a city check-in. Chicago on the check-in. I see you, Chi-Town. I love when you do the cities too, because then I could go off into a whole thing about the cities you live in. Detroit, what up, Doe? Love the Midwest. Some about Midwest people. Oh, that's right. I am doing an episode on the Midwest. That's right. We got to talk about it. So I'm doing something around the Midwest. Oh, guys, about that. I just think that people from the Midwest are wired differently. I just really think y'all are wired differently. Shout out to New York City. We had a whole conversation about New York. Is New York over? Is the creative capital over? I don't know. I don't think so. Sacramento, I'm super bullish on Sacramento. I think Sacramento is an important market, not just because it's the capital of this great state of California that I am born and raised in, but where I live. Houston, we love Houston, H Town, McGregor Park, the bands, Fourth Ward, whatever. I just know all the things because I have friends all over. LA, Melrose, I see you. I used to work on Melrose. I used to work right next to Spike's joint. Spike Lee used to have Spike's joint on Melrose. I used to work at a record label on Melrose. St. Louis, I see you. I've never even been to St. Louis. Saginaw, Michigan. Don't know a lot about it, but I love the state of Michigan. Love the state of Michigan. Love what's going on in Detroit. Y'all already know that. I'm obsessed. I went from, listen, this is my love story for Detroit. I have this thing where I fall in love with cities like lovers. So, and I do a dinner where I actually make people talk about their city as their lover. I have this theory. This is my poetic moment that I kind of contextualize cities as these beautiful women that I fall in love with, and I have these relationships with them. So I had a lover in Rio. I had a lover in I had a love. I'm not a lover. Don't get twisted. I don't want to start any rumors. But I had a lover in Dubai, and the cities themselves were like lovers. And then I would do this dinner because when you have a lover, you're in this damn, he leaves the toilet seat up. I'm mad at her. It's an interesting relationship you have with your lover. So I do this thing called Culture and Code when we could travel, where we do a dinner series, and we would have place cards underneath the plates, and I would make people talk about their city as their lover. I love Detroit, but I'm mad Detroit, right? I love Houston, but I'm mad at Houston. Or you have this weird relationship with your cities, and so many of your cities that you listed today are just like lovers in my book. And so I went from full transparency on Detroit, and I know I have Detroit people in the room. I see Jessica Caramore here. I hated going to Detroit. There was the one hotel, it was called the Athenaeum or the Millennium or something, some Greek name. And it was like these suites hotel. I worked in the music business, and and I would go to Detroit for music business, and I'd be like, this town is just dark, nasty, blah, blah. And I just would always see people that rep the D, just love Detroit. I was like, I don't really get it. A lot of cities are like that for me. I just don't I don't really get it. And I built this tour called Culture and Code, where we took creatives and investors and founders to great cities. And we chose Detroit as one of our cities. And I went to Detroit. Man, I love Detroit. It just flipped. I was like, I completely understand the essence of Detroit. And we did a dinner the first night where we had investors and creatives. We had Derek Coleman. We had that's where we discovered this incredible founder named Delane Monell, who's raised $90 million for esports. We did women's breakfast the next day. We went to the hood and brought all my fancy friends and did a Shark Tanky kind of design thinking thing. We at the end of it, we ended up renting an Airbnb in a part of Detroit called Corktown. It was this massive Airbnb mansion-y thing. I don't know, loft mansion. It was crazy. And I realized at the end of that, it was like all these trips were 72 hours. And at the end of the 72 hours, I was like, I completely get Detroit now. I never gave it the room and space so that we could fall in love. I was always it was real one night stands, let's call them. In fact, I have a whole video. I'll send it to you. And I wasn't there for the one night stand. I was there for the foreplay and everything. And I started going back to Detroit, going back. And in fact, right before the shutdown, we were planning the second season of Culture and Code. And on the list was Detroit, Philadelphia, um, Toronto, and then we were going to make it to the UAE and Saudi. And yeah, so I had this, interesting relationship with cities. It's kind of like Atlanta. I built this thing because I felt that people didn't really understand Atlanta. And like I lived in Atlanta for 13, 15 years, whatever, a long time. Got married in Atlanta, everything. I mean, I knew Atlanta was like my backyard. And so I always felt like people only knew Atlanta like Buckhead or like downtown. You know what I'm saying? They didn't know like Old Fourth Ward. They didn't know the art scene on the West Side. They didn't know West End. They didn't know the graffiti culture. They didn't know the farm to table movement. They didn't know that Atlanta had 15 Fortune 100s. They didn't know really about the power between black folks and white folks working together in the city of Atlanta. Um, and I was one of those victims where I just came to Atlanta, went to Marietta, went to, Phipps, Lenox Mall, whatever, for holidays. I didn't know Atlanta either. And when you get to know Atlanta, it's beyond the mall and beyond Buckhead and all that stuff. And so I built this tour too because I felt like people really didn't know the city. You just know your business Atlanta, right? And that's how I felt about. So I built a tour where you could really find the town hall, find the intersection between where the poets and the venture capitalists and the creatives and the billionaire and where they all come together. And in many cities, like it actually doesn't come together. Like in Atlanta, I was the person bringing those worlds together. Right? I was the one because I host rooms, I make rooms. And so in my rooms, they were diverse. They were diverse, not just ethnicity, diverse in occupation. And so when we would do culture and code, we did Detroit, we did Miami, we did DC, and I would bring together this intersectionality of people. Yeah, and it was inspired by a community and an experience that I was a part of and was really blessed to build in Israel, where we took founders, creatives, all kinds of interesting people on these trips to Israel. And I just remember like the power of having diverse thoughts and diverse industries together, and then the power of the land, the power of Israel and and Israel itself speaking to you. Like I think cities have a voice. I think cities have a way of speaking to you, and the land itself is a character in the script, in the conversation. Like Detroit speaks to me. Like I was there right before shutdown. And I was. I'm just talking a lot about Detroit because I see my friend Jessica Care Moore. I'm like talking to her. Um, I was over by the Eastern Market, like a part of Detroit I had never really explored. And there's something about when you're in a city and you just go, "Oh, this is really talking to me. The spirit of this place is talking to me." That I had the same effect in Israel in when I was in when I went to. I mean, this is you guys know the stories. You read the Bible. When you go to the Sea of Galilee, like it speaks to you. When you go to Africa, when you go to Soweto, oh, and I only have a little bit of pinky toe deep into my African travels, dude. But when you go to Soweto, I just felt like it was every incredible community that I've been to rolled up into one. It was like 125th meets Lamert Park, meets Little Five Points, meets Oakland, Lake Merritt on a Sunday, meets Fort Greene on a Sunday. Like all of my favorite communities in one in Soweto. Oh my God. So I think that cities and communities have their own, yes, Itasha, their own language. I have two poets in the room, two writers who I know I'm going to see this show up in your poetry and your writing. You got to give me a little credit. Just give me a little asterisk. Maybe we'll co-write together. But cities have their own language, their own spirit, their own DNA. And that's what I was trying to create in Culture and Code, was how do you find that unique DNA? And how do you find the people, back to the creatives, the people that are contributing to that DNA? Because yes, it's the buildings, yes, it's the restaurants, but it's the people. It's the Polish girl that I know in Detroit who opened the wine bar behind the Shinola Hotel, but she was my bartender when we did Culture and Code and was putting me up on her extensive knowledge of reggae records. I was like, this is only in Detroit. Like, how does this city breed this white girl who's putting me up on 45s, putting me up on dub plates? And then I come back to Detroit, and that young woman has opened up her own wine bar that has vinyl and turntable. When I go back, it's her. Like, that's what I'm in Detroit for. That's what I'm in these cities for. I'm in these cities to find the people who contribute. Yes, the coolest white people are from Detroit. Like, they're the original hipsters. Like, the hipsters that are like in Silver Lake in LA and like, have the long mustaches and the cuffed pants and ride the like fixed gear bikes and shit. Nah, Detroit is like that on steroids. So are other cities. Stockholm. Oh my God, don't get me started. So anyway, yes, I'm going to do a whole episode on my love affair of cities. If I go into Stockholm, it'll be another hour in the Nordics and Europe. So I'm going to end this show now while we're y'all acting crazy trying to fire me up today. I love you. This is amazing. Have a great day.